Good morning. All right, everyone. Good morning. We'll give it a little bit more time just while a few others are logging in. For our class this morning, we'll be needing, same as last time, some weights and a TheraBand. And we'll be going through a bit of strength training. So we'll touch on a few components that I spoke about last week. We'll go into a little bit more depth about that. And then we'll talk about what sort of rep ranges we want to be working with, what sort of weights you want to be working with to build muscular strength. And also the importance of breathing while we complete strength-based exercises. All right? So, to start off with, I'll take us through a warm-up. I'll talk a little about breathing. We'll go through some exercises, and then during rest periods, I'll give us a bit of education throughout it. So to begin, let's all just stand up. Make sure you've got a little bit of space by your side. I'm going to practice one of my favorite exercises just to warm up and connect the body a little bit. So to begin with, we're going to think about taking a nice big breath in. As we breathe in, we're going to open our arms up and out. As we breathe out, we're going to let our arms swing in and do a little squat. And just flow back and forth through that. So nice breath in. Nice breath out. In. Out. And repeat. And out. 3 to go. In. Out. Throughout today's session, do your best to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Nice job. Coming back up to standing. You're just going to take a step forwards, bend your knees slightly, and step back. And just alternating legs. Forwards, little step, pushing back. As you continue with this movement, if you're feeling comfortable with it, if I show you side on, you can go a little bit lower and just start to warm up our legs. So we are going to be doing some lunging today. For all the exercises today, it's important that you work at an intensity that feels safe for you and kind of a medium intensity. Good job. All right, let's come back to the middle. We're just going to take a step out to the side now, a little bend of the knee, and then push back. Out to the side, little bend, coming back. Nice job. Let's bring our arms by our side. And for our next one, when we go out, we're going to raise our arms up. Kind of like a modified jumping jack. Nice job. Let's go one more each way. Work. Back to center. Just going to do a little bit of shadow boxing. So when you're doing this, I want you to think about reaching out with one arm, pulling back with the other. So getting a little bit of movement through the shoulder blades, a little bit of rotation through our thoracic spine. Now, if that's feeling comfortable, you want to make it a little bit harder. You don't need to, but if you're wanting to challenge yourself more, you can do opposite leg lifts. So trying to do opposing limbs, not the same side. Do your best to keep your shoulders relatively level, your hips relatively level as you push out and in. Go for 2 more. Last one. Nice job. We're going to just have our hands behind our bottom and we're kicking our heels up towards our hands, keeping our shoulders back. Do your best to not let your knee come forward. We're keeping the leg back the whole time. Good job. Keep that going. All right, let's bring our hands out in front. So what height your hands are will vary per person. See what level you can work at, but essentially trying to hold your hands there and tap your knee up to each palm. As you do this, notice that my torso isn't really changing or moving too much. So you want to stay nice and aligned as opposed to stooping down. Keep your back up, keep your chest up high, little taps. Staying nice and high with that chest. Good job. Let's go for 2 more each side. Good. Going to bring our left hand onto our chest. Right arm's going to come up, around, and down. We're going to watch it. Provided your neck feels okay, I want you to watch your hands. So you raise it up, over, around, and back in front. And again. If you're getting any clicking or clacking, try to work within a smaller circle. Shouldn't be pushing through any pain. And as you raise your arm up, let it turn behind you, back down in front. We're going to do the opposite now. We're going to pull it back, up and over. Kind of like you're doing breaststroke. You're going to be swimming. You're just taking your shoulder through a bit of range of motion and incorporating a bit of our head and neck moving with it. Let's go for 1 more. Nice job. Switching sides. Bringing it up, back, around, and through. One more. And reversing it. Nice job. Shaking the hands off. Bring our hands onto our shoulders, like so. Bend your knees just a little bit. Draw your tummy in. Without your knees moving, I want you to rotate one way. Come back to center. Rotate the other way. Back to center. And again. Try to think about pulling that belly button towards your spine slightly, getting a little bit of your tummy muscles to help out here. Good job. Hands are going to come onto our palms. We're just going to take our spine through a bit of flexion and extension. So I want you to think about your spine stacked on top of itself. You're going to start by lifting and then bending our neck, so not falling forwards. I'm going to lift my head like a string's pulling it up. Start to roll down each bit of my spine at a time. I'm just sliding down to where I feel comfortable. Your hamstrings are a little bit stiff or your back's a bit stiff, you might get a big stretch in the back of your legs. And then just rolling back up, coming up nice and straight. All right, if you get any dizziness through this or you get a bit of shift in your pressure, I'd urge you just to do a little slide, keeping your head up and coming back up straight. But if you feel comfortable letting your head tilt down, you're just sliding down to where you feel you can get to, stacking your hips on top of themselves and rolling back up. And you go for one more repetition. Nice job. We're going to pop our hands on our bottom or on your lower back. From here, so if I show you from front on, I'm just going to squeeze my shoulder blades together, squeeze my bum, and just push my hips forwards a little bit. And come back to center. So I'm not forcing anything here, I'm just getting a little bit of extension to my back, loosening up my spine, squeezing my bum and tummy, coming back to center. Let's go for one more little squeeze, keep your stomach on, and center, nice job. Final movement we have is a bit of a hinge. I might just move this chair forward so you can see my feet a bit easier. So what I'd like you to think about doing, feet will be hip width apart. So if you look at your feet, there should be roughly a square in between your feet. We're going to bend our knees to about 5 degrees or 10 degrees bend in the knee. Hold there. With your hands, you're going to have them on our thighs. Keeping your kneecaps where they are, sit your bum back, slide down, and notice my back is staying straight. Straight doesn't mean vertical, it's in a nice diagonal, but I'm not letting it slouch like so. In this position, we're going to push our knees apart softly, push our hands into our knees and just hold for 2 seconds, and then straighten back up. Good, so this movement is called a deadlift, and I'll explain it more when we get into the exercise component. But it's quite a fundamental movement to be able to do, a hinge at the hips. You get to this position, we're going to push our hands, draw our shoulder blades down, push our hands into our knees, hold that tension for 2 to 3 seconds, drive to the ground and come up straight. Let's go for one more. Soften the knees, thumb back, pushing into our knees, holding strong, driving back up. Good work. Alrighty, so get your band ready. So this next block is focusing on building strength. When we're working on strength, generally you want to be doing somewhere around about 6 repetitions to 10 repetitions. But by the 10th, you should definitely be getting quite fatigued. So if we want to build more muscular strength, we need to use higher resistances or higher loads. Okay, because we're doing this from home, it won't be a strict strength program. Not everyone's going to have access to quite heavy equipment. And if it's also your first time doing this, you want to build up to those heavier loads with good technique. So for today, we're still going to work around that sort of 8 repetition range, but I'll give you prompts in ways you can make it harder. And we'll be using predominantly the TheraBand. All right. With strength, the importance of it is just to maintain and build muscle mass. So as we get older, especially if we aren't moving as much or lifting or putting our body under physical demand, our muscle mass can start to atrophy or decline. And that's related a lot to all-cause mortality. So if you're losing muscle mass, your ability to react can go down, affecting your balance. Your bone health can go down. So overall, we want to maintain good, strong muscles and in turn support our joints and our bones. Alrighty, so the first stuff we're going to work with is going to be doing quite a lot of leg work, and I will throw in some upper body work to counteract it and let our legs rest incrementally. We're going to start off with the TheraBand. And our first movement will be that deadlift we just practiced. So at home, you can do it body weight, you're still building on it. But with our TheraBand, we're going to be stepping on it. So you'll let it hang down. Pop one foot on it. Pop the other foot on it. And when you bring your feet to hip width apart, there should be a little bit of tension underneath the band. I'm going to do this side on so you can see how I'm moving through it. From here, if we come down, to make it a bit more resistant, you can crisscross the band. We're going to bend our knees and sit our bum back and grip. From this position, I'd like you to drive up to straight. At the top position, you should have your shoulders pulled back, your tummy in a little bit, and your knees straight. We then bend our knees, sit our bum back, and that's one rep. Up we come, drive up, pull the shoulders back, control back down. If it's quite easy, grab further down, closer to the floor, closer to your feet, you'll get a bit more tension. And back. Driving up, controlling back down. So if you have access to a gym, you can use dumbbells, kettlebells, or barbells instead of using the TheraBand here. At home, the band is a great tool or great piece of equipment you can use. You find it's quite comfortable. So for myself, this band's a bit too easy. If I want to build more strength, I'd have to probably double the band up or use some weights. Let's go for 2 more reps. 1 more rep. Driving up, good job. Holding there, you may need to sneak your grip so it's a little bit lighter. We're going to superset that, meaning we won't rest, you're going to go straight into another movement, and that's going to be a bit of an upright row. So you're just pulling up, keeping your elbows in line with your shoulders at the top, building a little bit of strength through our upper shoulders and our neck. Shouldn't be using too much of your neck for this though. So we want to keep a bit of a gap between our ear and our shoulder. I'm also pulling using the shoulder muscles, driving up and down. We'll go for 1 more rep. Nice job. Now we're going to take the band, so we're going to uncross it, grab either side, and we're going through a little bit of a squat motion. So with the squat, you can think about sitting your bum back and letting your knees bend forwards a bit more and driving up. Very similar to the deadlift, just getting a bit more knee bend this time. Good work, and you have 4 more. Two to go. 1 more. Good job. Final movement, bicep curl. We're just going to set our shoulders back, curl up, control back down, provided you can do it with this resistance. So I'm keeping my elbows by my side, keeping my shoulder blades pulled back and down slightly. If you find it's a bit heavy, just grab further up on your band. Good job. Here for 2 more. Last one. Nice work, everyone. Have a little rest. So there's a few ways to train your strength. When you're getting to heavy weight and you're only working on around that 6 repetition max range or less, generally you'll rest for a good 2 to 5 minutes in between each set. Because we're working from home with bands or lighter equipment, our focus is still around strength today, but I'm doing it more in a circuit modality, a circuit format. So if we're shifting between 4 different exercises with minimal rest in between, and then after we're going to have a decent break, as we are doing right now while I'm talking. And then we're going to flow through those exercises again, at least 3 times total. So when we're working on building muscle strength or mass, we want to be doing at least 3 sets, working somewhere between 6 to 8 reps to build that strength up. All right, as you're doing this, make sure you listen to your body. So I don't want you to push through any pain. If you're doing any shoulder work and you find pulling up to here is causing a bit of discomfort, then you may want to just start by doing a small movement and progressively building up to more advanced or more range over time. Alrighty, we're going to grab our band again. We're going to flow through those 4 movements again. So we're starting with the deadlift. I'll do it a bit more front on this time. We're going to go for 8 reps. So you come down, you sit your bum back. I'm going to crisscross it so it's a bit harder and grab quite close to my feet. We're pulling our shoulders back, making sure our back is flat, and then driving up. Sit your bum back, get a bit of tension or stretch through the hamstrings, drive up and forwards. Down, driving up. Work, 4 to go. Our tempo at the moment is nice and controlled. So we're taking roughly 2 seconds to lower ourselves down, roughly 1 second to drive up. Last rep. Nice job. Moving into the upright row. Pulling up, controlling down. So you want to make sure that you're doing the 2 phases of the movement with control. Generally, when you're lowering the weight or lowering yourself down, a lot of us can be a bit too quick with that phase. So often when you are lowering the weight, your muscles are getting stretched under tension, and it causes little tears in the muscles, which done at the right intensity is a good thing for them. They'll grow back a little bit stronger, and that's how we're building muscle mass. Let's go for 1 more rep. So we want to make sure we don't skip out that phase and do it too slow. Too fast, sorry. We're going to go into the squat now. So a little bend at the knees. So we drive up, work those thigh muscles, and then be able to control down, driving up, and down, up, controlling down, slowly down, doing well everyone. 2 reps to go. Last rep. Control down. Good job. Take our band, pull our shoulders back, and going for our bicep curls now. So by the end of this, you might find your grip strength starts improving if you're using the band the whole time. Three left. Good work. Have a little rest, grab a quick drink. We'll take about 2 minutes or so. And then we'll do 1 more round of that circuit before changing it up. Now, one thing I haven't touched on yet is breathing with with heavy lifting. Okay, so while you're resting at home, just bring your attention to this concept of breathing. So what we want to think about is anytime we're lifting something, we can use our breath to aid us with that movement. And what I mean by that is generally, if you're squatting or hinging down to grab a heavy object, so classic examples at home would be a pot plant, a bit of compost, a grandchild, anything along those lines that's got a bit of weight to it. When we're in this position, I'd like you to think about taking a nice big breath into your abdominal area. So if you find your rib cage and your pelvis, in between there, we want to direct at least 2/3 of our breath. Roughly 1/3 will go into the chest. So if we think about getting down to this position, taking a nice breath in, grabbing the weight, and then breathing out as we lift, the in-breath helps to increase what's called your intra-abdominal pressure. So just the pressure in amongst our abdominal cavity. And that pressure helps to stabilize our spine and our core. So by having that nice inhale and bit of pressure around here, it's going to create a bit of tension around our spine, our back, our core, and keep it more stable. And in doing so, allow us to express more strength and power through our hips and knees. So for this round, when we're doing our deadlifts, when we're doing our squats, I want you to think about breathing in as you go down, breathing out as we drive up. Let's grab our band. Get set up underneath our feet. Shoulders back, bend your knees, sit your bottom back. Nice breath in. Breathe out, push up. Let's go for 7 more. Think about pushing through the floor as you raise. Two more. Nice job. The upright row. Try to mimic it. We're going to breathe in first and breathe out as we pull. So breathing in, breathing out. Job, 4 to go. Last 2. I think I've added an extra one on, so we'll go 1 more anyway for good luck. Glad. I'm crossing it. Moving into our little bit of a squat. Squat's more so when you're having to sit down on a chair, get up off the toilet, or just get down. Especially if you're sort of working in the garden, for example, having to get down low to the ground to pick anything up. The squat or the hinge. 2 of the best movement patterns to use. Remember breathing in as we go down. Out as we come up. Last one. Go. Final movement is our bicep curl. Pulling our shoulders back a little bit, driving up, rolling down. Two left. Last one. Good work. Grab a drink, have a little rest. And I'll be taking us through another set of exercises to work with a little bit of a circuit. So, while we're having a break in the middle here, just to summarize a few components. When we're doing strength-based training, want to be working anywhere between 3 sets plus. So up to 4 is a really good amount, especially if you're just starting off. With our repetitions, conventional strength training is somewhere between 1 and 6 repetitions. If you're getting into exercise or you're first starting off in exercise, we recommend going a bit higher but with lighter weight. So for today, we've been working around that 8 rep range because most of us are probably using equipment at home that doesn't replicate enough load to really be doing heavy strength training. Before you get into heavy strength training, you want to make sure your movement patterns, your technique are all at a good level so that when we are working with weight, our muscles are taking the tension as opposed to our joints. All right, so for at home, roughly 3 to 4 sets around that 8 rep range is a good guide to go off. When we're working through different movements, so we always have the 2 phases. So when I'm doing a bicep curl, when I'm moving up, my muscles are shortening. It's called a concentric phase. When I'm lowering the weight down, my muscles are lengthening under tension, called the eccentric phase. And it's generally during that eccentric phase that you'll get little tears through the muscles. But in doing so, our muscles will repair given enough rest and nutrition to come back a bit stronger. And over time, more in tune, more adapted, and more strength will be available through that muscle group. All right. Finally, we talked a little bit about breathing. So thinking about breathing in through the nose, getting a bit of an increased intra-abdominal pressure before we do any heavy lift, pull, or push. So you want to think about breathing in, breathing out through the effort. Awesome. All right, we're going to need our band again. You can use dumbbells instead if you like for the next couple. But if you only got the TheraBand, just using the TheraBand. We're going to be working on the lunge. So the lunge is another very functional movement. I believe it's especially important as you get older. If you can continue being able to lunge with good technique, good alignment, it challenges balance, strength, and mobility all in one. If you're finding it's a bit difficult, have a chair or a rail nearby, and you can definitely use that to help you work up into a lunge. If you find you're quite competent with the lunge, so we might, for our first set, we'll do a body weight, and then we'll add in the band. If you know you can do it comfortably, you can add your band in from the get-go. So just to show you, if you're using a band, it's going to go around the front of your foot, and we're going down and pushing up against the resistance of the band. If you're using dumbbells, you can just hold them by your side and up. If we're not using anything, hands can just be by our side. All right, so for my first set, I'm going to do it just body weight. We'll prep our muscles, and at home you can use a rail or a chair for a bit of assistance. So our back foot, our heel should definitely not be on the ground. We want the heel risen. That's where the balance comes into it. You're going to lower directly down. Push back up. Down and up. Breathing in, breathing out as you come up. Ready to go. Good job. Switching feet. Controlling down, pushing up. Remember, you can use something for support if you need. Last one. Nice job. Good work. With the lunge, the other movement we're going to work on is doing a bit of a row, bent over row. So you can use some dumbbells. You can even use your band around your feet and do it in this position. I'm going to use some dumbbells for today. But if you have the band, just same setup as the deadlift if you're using the band. From here, we bend our knees a little bit, sit our bum back, kick our back straight. We're just pulling our elbows by our side. It's not a massive movement. And back down. So your elbows won't really be going higher than your torso. As you do this, you're aiming to get a bit of a squeeze below and in between the shoulder blades. Good, 2 reps left. Nice job, straightening back up. The final movement we're going to do is a single arm raise. So if you have dumbbells, you can use them. If you have your band, I'll just show you with the band. You go for 8 each side. So if you're using a TheraBand, you can hold it on one foot. Find the right tension where you can raise up to roughly shoulder height and control back down. And I do want your arm not going directly out in front, a little bit at an angle. So that's if you want to use the band. If you're using a weight, same thing, just raising up, controlling back down. Okay, so whatever you have access to, you can use. And away we go, coming up at about a 30-degree angle. So not directly out to the side and not directly out in front, kind of in between. Notice that my torso isn't moving. So often I see people raise up, they reach their threshold here and they end up leaning back. Try to keep your stomach a little bit active. Don't let your torso move as you raise. Let's go for 2 more. Last one. Switch sides. Shoulder back, raising up. Last one. Nice job, everyone. Have a rest. little breather. Then we're going to work through all of those again. So I'm going to use my dumbbells. Because I have access to dumbbells, I'll be using them for the lunges this time. If you want to, you can use a band. All right, I guess I'll set up on that split stance. If you're using a band, you'll have it wrapped around the front of your foot. And controlling down, pushing up. Breathe in on the way down. Out on the way up. Nice job. Switching legs. Last two. Nice job. Coming into our bent over position. Keeping your feet parallel, knees out slightly. Elbows to side. Shoulder back down. Just the arms and shoulders are moving. Nothing else. Last one. Nice job. Final one, single arm raise. Raising up at roughly that 30-degree angle. Make sure you're drawing your shoulder blades slightly down and forwards. You can do this body weight if you need. Two more, then we'll switch sides. Last one. Nice work. Other side. Final one. Nice job, everyone. Have a little breather. Nice job. So have a little rest, about a minute, and then we'll go through one last round of that, and we'll be finished after that. Those watching at home, if you have any questions, maybe think of some now if you'd like to ask me anything, and after we finish our last set, I have a minute or two just for questions. When you are doing strength training, make sure you do follow it up with good nutrition. All right, so you do want to get something with protein in it to help with that repair of your muscles. Make sure you're hydrated. Often, if you need to, you may need a little bit of electrolytes. And then the big factor is making sure you actually try to get at least 7.5 hours sleep. Ideally, you're doing that every night anyway. I know a lot of us struggle when we get, especially as we get older, getting enough sleep in. So we might talk a little bit about that at the end, but if you want your body to benefit from strength training, you need to make sure you put the work or set yourself up for good recovery. And that comes under good nutrition, hydration, and rest. All right, let's go for our last set. We'll finish strong. Setting ourselves up for the lunges. Away we go, breathing in as we lower, out as we come up. And switching legs. Good to go. Moving into our bent over row, knees soft, bottom back, elbows to side. Last one. Final one. Single arm raise, roughly 30 degrees. Trying to keep your torso nice and aligned, hips nice and aligned. Last one. Switching sides. And last one. Nice work. Grab a drink, have a bit of a break. In terms of the exercises, we're all finished. So when it comes to recovery, just looking at what food sources you can get in that have a little bit of protein, some carbohydrates and some good fats. Everyone's going to vary on what works best for them, but making sure you give yourself a nice meal and ideally all the time not processed food. So stuff that actually has good nutrition in it will help a lot for your body to recover. Make sure you're drinking enough water. So for most people, around that 2 litres of water, 2.5 litres, depending on how much you weigh and how large how tall you are. So trying to get around that 2 litres in per day. And then with sleep, ideally we're getting around 7.5 hours each night. So ways to help with your sleep, try to eat your last meal about 3 to 4 hours before going to bed, so that your stomach isn't sitting there trying to digest everything. But a more important one is how much artificial light and screens you're looking at prior to bed. Okay, so that will influence your hormone release. That helps you to sleep. If you're having a lot of lights on or you're watching TV before bed, which I know a lot of people have as a habit, that will influence the hormones of your body and impair or impede your ability to fall into a deep sleep. So I highly recommend trying to have an earlier meal, take your phone off or turn the TV off at least an hour before wanting to go to bed. And if you can, replace TV or screen time with a bit of reading, something that can engage the mind, but also allow you to get a bit sleepy. And then hopefully that will all help in terms of recovering better from this session and future sessions. And sleep is a big one that if you're struggling with, I believe is very important to try to get on top of and start improving your quality of sleep, because that will really help with the clarity of your mind, the recovery of your body and your health in general. All right. If there's any other questions, feel free to unmute your mic and ask me now. But otherwise, we're all finished. Good work today. Hopefully you enjoyed the session. Awesome. Cheers, everyone. Have a lovely week.